life. Have you ever wondered how we protect the incredible diversity of life on our planet? From the tiniest insect to the largest whale, every species plays a role. But with biodiversity facing unprecedented threats, what are we actually doing about it? Today, we're re-diving into a groundbreaking global plan and the surprising role our courts are playing to make it a reality. Let's start with the big picture. In December 2022, something historic happened in Montreal, Canada. Nearly every country in the world came together and adopted the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, or GBF for short. Think of it as the world's new game plan for nature. It's a massive deal, setting out a mission to halt and reverse biodiversity loss by 2030. The GBF is built around 4 main goals. First, to protect and restore ecosystems, halt human-induced extinctions, and maintain genetic diversity. Second, to ensure that we use and manage nature's resources sustainably so that nature continues to provide for us. Third, to make sure that the benefits from using genetic resources are shared fairly and equitably. And fourth, to secure the necessary funding and resources to make all of this happen. To achieve these goals, the framework lays out 23 specific targets. These are the action points. One of the most famous is Target 3, or 4, called 30 by 30. This target aims to ensure that by 2030, at least 30% of the Earth's land, inland waters, coastal areas, and oceans are effectively conserved and managed. It's an ambitious goal that highlights the scale of the challenge. Other targets are just as crucial. For example, Target 7 aims to reduce pollution from all sources to levels that are not harmful to biodiversity. This includes tackling plastic waste and excess nutrients from agriculture. Target 8 focuses on minimizing the impacts of climate change on biodiversity through nature-based solutions. And Target 18 aims to phase out or reform subsidies that harm biodiversity by at least $500 billion per year. That's a huge amount of money that could be redirected towards conservation. So, we have this amazing global plan. But here's the million-dollar question. How do we make sure countries actually follow through on their promises? History has shown us that international agreements can sometimes be all talk and no action. The GBF's predecessor, the HE biodiversity targets, largely failed because of a lack of implementation and accountability. This is where things get really interesting and where courts and judges come into the picture. We're seeing a rise in what's called judicial activism in environmental law. This isn't about judges making up new laws, it's about using existing laws to hold governments and corporations accountable for their environmental commitments. You might be familiar with climate litigation, where citizens and NGOs have sued governments for not doing enough to combat climate change. Well, a similar trend is now emerging for biodiversity. People are going to court to protect nature, and they're using frameworks like the GBF to strengthen their cases. So, how does this work in practice? Let's say a country has signed the GBF, committing to the 30 by 30 inches target. Then, its government approves a massive development project in an ecologically sensitive area without proper environmental assessment. An environmental group could take the government to court. They could argue that by approving the project, the government is acting against its international commitment to protect 30% of its land and sea. Even though the GBF itself is UNT, a legally binding treaty that you can directly sue over in most countries, it sets a powerful global standard. Judges can use it as a guide to interpret national environmental laws. They can look at the GBF and say, the international community agrees that this level of protection is necessary. Our national laws should be interpreted in a way that aligns with this global consensus. This is a subtle but incredibly powerful shift. It elevates the GBF from just a political promise to a benchmark for legal responsibility. We've seen this happen in different parts of the world. For instance, in some countries, courts have halted projects that threatened endangered species. citing the nation's duty to protect biodiversity, a duty reinforced by international agreements. One famous case in the Netherlands forced the government to take more ambitious climate action based on its human rights obligations and international climate goals. This legal logic is now being applied to biodiversity. The argument is that a healthy environment and rich biodiversity are fundamental to human rights: the right to life, the right to health, and the right to a clean environment. When governments fail to protect biodiversity, they are potentially violating these fundamental rights. This legal strategy does two things. First, it puts direct pressure on governments. The threat of a lawsuit can make them think twice before approving a harmful project or weakening environmental regulations. It forces them to justify their decisions, not just politically, but legally. Second, it empowers citizens and communities. It gives them a tool to fight for their local environment. Indigenous peoples and local communities, who are often on the front lines of biodiversity loss, can use the courts to protect their ancestral lands and traditional ways of life, which are intrinsically linked to nature. The GBF itself specifically recognizes the rights and roles of these communities, giving their legal claims even more weight. Of course, this isn't a magic bullet. Legal battles can be long, expensive, and the outcome is never guaranteed. The success of biodiversity litigation depends heavily on the strength of a country's national laws and the independence of its judiciary. In some places, these legal avenues are limited or non-existent. Moreover, judges need to be educated about the science and importance of biodiversity. This is why collaboration between scientists, lawyers, and civil society is so important. Scientists provide the evidence of environmental harm. Lawyers translate that evidence into compelling legal arguments. What does this all mean for the future of our planet's biodiversity? It means there's a new and powerful player in the conservation game: the rule of law. While politicians debate and diplomats negotiate, courts are becoming crucial arenas where the fate of ecosystems can be decided. The Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework provides the script to the global vision for a world living in harmony with nature. And judicial activism is becoming the director, ensuring that the actors, our governments and corporations, actually play their parts. This combination is a source of hope. It shows that international commitments don't have to be empty words. They can be transformed into real, on-the-ground action through legal challenges brought by passionate, ordinary people. It's a powerful reminder that we all have a role to play in holding our leaders accountable for the future of our planet. The fight to save biodiversity is happening in our forests, our oceans, and increasingly, in our courtrooms. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this topic as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video. 2. What are your thoughts on using the courts to protect nature? Let me know in the comments below. See you next time.